She thought she had married a king who loved her, but every night he would strip her bare and rub a strange dark clay on her body without telling her why. Was it love or a ritual sacrifice? And when her cousin discovered the bruises on her skin, he whispered, "He's preparing you for a demonic offering." The air inside the royal chamber was thick with lavender-scented candle smoke and silence. Heavy velvet drapes hugged the stone walls, muffling the whispers of the cool night winds outside. A fire burned low in the ornate hearth, casting golden shadows across the marbled floor and the majestic canopy bed draped in ivory silk. Elara Quinn stood near the window, her back to the room, her fingers nervously clutching the edge of her shimmering white bridal veil. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the walls could hear it. Tonight she was no longer just Elara, a farmer's daughter who once ran barefoot through muddy fields. Tonight she was Queen Elara of Valemont, wife to King Lucien Blackamoor, the most powerful and enigmatic ruler the land had ever known. Her reflection in the tall antique mirror beside the window stole even her own breath. The royal tailors had dressed her like a goddess, a corseted white satin gown embroidered with silver threads that caught the firelight, cascading down her slender figure like moonlight on water. Her long chestnut curls were woven with tiny pearls, and her soft green eyes shimmered beneath delicate lashes. Her cheeks held a natural flush, but tonight they burned brighter with anticipation, fear, and the haunting weight of not knowing what came next. How did I get here? She thought back to that day in the fields, her father's voice calling for help as he struggled with the plough. She had run to his side, her hands covered in earth, her hair a tangled mess from the wind. That was the moment she saw him, King Lucien, atop a black stallion, his soldiers behind him, his silver cloak rippling in the breeze. He had stopped. He had looked at her. And the very next week, her father had received a royal summons. Now Elara stood dressed in silk, but still felt like the barefoot girl with calloused hands and a beating heart. She turned her head slightly toward the grand door. The silence was unbearable. Why hasn't he come yet? Everyone in the kingdom whispered about him. The king with eyes like winter storms, and a voice that rarely spoke. He had divorced 2 queens before her. He had no heir. No one knew why, but still his people adored him, and so did she. Silently, from a distance, she had fallen for him, maybe because he had seen her when no one else had. And then, click, the iron door creaked open. Her breath hitched. Her fingers froze mid-air as she reached up to touch her earring. Slowly, she turned. King Lucien entered the room, his towering figure silhouetted against the torchlight from the hall. He had removed his royal cloak, dressed only in black trousers. His sculpted chest glistened faintly with drops of bathwater, and his dark, slightly damp hair curled against his forehead. But it wasn't his body that made her heart stumble. It was his eyes. Grey, cold, unreadable. He said nothing. Elara's hands trembled at her sides. She swallowed hard, forcing her gaze down. He's my husband now, my king. He walked slowly toward her, his bare feet silent on the marble. The air between them thickened with every step he took. She could feel her skin prickle. She didn't dare move. He stopped just behind her, her body tensed. Will he touch me now? Kiss me. Then she felt it. His hand, firm but not rough, rested on her shoulder. With a gentle pressure, he turned her around to face him. Their eyes locked. Her lashes fluttered. Your grace, she whispered, barely able to breathe. She expected passion, a kiss, a touch, anything. But instead, He extended a small golden bowl toward her. She blinked in confusion. Inside the bowl was a thick, grayish-brown paste, earthy, grainy, and slightly wet. It smelled like crushed herbs and clay. Lucien's voice was deep, flat, and commanding. "Before our union, you must apply this, all over your body." She stared at him. The moment shattered like glass. "What?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Her heart was no longer fluttering, it was now thundering in fear. I don't understand," she whispered. His voice was stern. "Remove your dress, Alara." The bowl remained steady in his hand. His face betrayed no emotion. Her hands clenched the fabric at her sides. No kiss, no gentle welcome, just this. The blush on her face turned into pale confusion. Her chest rose and fell quickly. "Your grace, no romance, no warmth?" she asked, voice trembling. "Is this a ritual?" He did not answer her question. Instead, he repeated, "You heard my order." Tears stung her eyes. This wasn't how she imagined her first night as a queen. No soft whispers, no candlelit affection, only a strange command, and a cold, unreadable king. But she obeyed. With shaky fingers, she undid the pearl clasps at the back of her gown. Slowly, it slipped from her shoulders and pooled around her feet. She stood, vulnerable and bare before him, every inch of her soul exposed. Lucien didn't leer. He didn't touch. Instead, he dipped his fingers into the bowl and gently began rubbing the paste across her collarbone. Alara flinched. The paste was cold, sticky, and rough. It smelled of soil and old leaves. With every stroke across her skin, her arms, her stomach, her back, she wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. But she stood frozen. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. Why is he doing this? What kind of man covers his bride in mud before touching her? He said nothing as he worked, his face calm, detached, methodical. When he had covered every inch of her, her glowing skin now dull and brown, he stepped back. His eyes moved over her slowly. Then, for the first time, he smiled, a faint, haunting smile. "Now, you look beautiful." And then, finally, he took her to bed. No more words, no affection, just silence and the scent of wet earth on her skin. When it was over, he rolled away, turned his back to her, and pulled the sheets over his waist. Alara lay still, wide-eyed, shivering under the cold touch of drying clay on her body. Her heart was heavy, her soul cracked. This wasn't how I thought it would be. This wasn't the love I imagined. She waited. He said nothing, just soft, steady breaths, the sound of a man asleep or simply uncaring. Slowly, Alara slipped out of the bed. Her legs were trembling. Her body ached not from passion, but from confusion, shame, and heartbreak. She found her nightgown on the floor and put it on hastily. Without a sound, she padded across the cold marble toward the private bath chamber. As the warm steam from the stone tubs wrapped around her, tears finally fell. Why did he do that? Why no kiss, no love, just that clay? Does he hate me? Or is he hiding something? She didn't know. All she knew was that her wedding night had ended. Not in passion, but in pain. The first light of dawn filtered through the royal bedchamber of Valemount. Ilara's eyes were already open. She hadn't slept much. Silent tears clung to her lashes. Her heart felt heavy. Her body ached in ways she didn't understand. King Lucien stirred beside her. For a moment, She thought he would remain cold and distant like the night before. But he didn't. He turned to her. His dark eyes held a strange softness. A small, mysterious smile curved his lips. Then, without saying a word, he leaned in and pressed a tender kiss to her forehead. Ilara froze, and before she could speak, he got up from the bed, wrapped a deep blue robe around his waist, and left the room. She stared at the door, stunned. What was that? Kindness? Guilt? She couldn't understand him. Last night, he had been powerful, commanding, strange, and now he had kissed her like a gentle lover. Her mind was spinning. A few hours later, the grand royal courtyard was filled with people. Nobles, ministers, foreign guests, and citizens from across Valemount had gathered to witness Queen Ilara's coronation. Trumpets blared, banners fluttered, bells rang across the palace towers. Ilara stood tall in a rich emerald gown, her golden hair braided with threads of silver and pearls. A velvet cape rested on her shoulders, but her eyes looked distant. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled slightly. The archbishop stepped forward and gently placed the royal crown upon her head. "You are now the crowned queen of Valemount," he declared. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Ilara could barely hear them. Her thoughts were drowning in last night's memory. She could still feel the earthy paste being rubbed across her skin. She could still hear Lucien's deep voice commanding her, "Before love, we honor the ritual of the kings." She had wanted to scream, but she had obeyed. Her body remembered. She blinked back tears, trying to stay strong. Then, suddenly, her eyes locked on someone in the crowd. Her breath caught. A young man in the crowd stood still, dressed plainly, but his eyes were burning with pain. Sheen, her cousin, her childhood friend, her first companion, the boy who had once whispered dreams of marriage, of love, of a simple life away from court and crowns. He had loved her. But when King Lucien's proposal arrived, her father hadn't hesitated. A king's hand was worth more than a cousin's heart. Ilara had said nothing. She had turned her face away and obeyed like a good daughter. Now, here he was, watching her, his eyes filled with silent agony. A storm of emotions surged through her. She didn't love him, not like that, but a sharp guilt twisted inside her. Had his curse, his broken heart, brought her into this strange fate? She looked away. That evening, Ilara sat alone in the palace gardens. The roses had begun to bloom. A cool breeze carried the scent of jasmine, but her heart was restless. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind her. She turned sharply. It was Sheen. He walked slowly, respectfully, his hands clasped behind him. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice a little too sharp. "I came as a servant," he replied. "They needed workers to carry flowers for the coronation. No one questioned my presence." Her heart thudded. She looked around. No guards nearby. "I shouldn't be seen talking to you." "I know," he whispered, "but I had to, Ilara. You looked so lost today, so distant, like you were drowning inside your own crown." She swallowed hard. "I'm not lost," she lied. "I'm happy, King Lucien is. Everything a woman could want, handsome, powerful, kind." Sheen's face twisted slightly. "Then why are your eyes still filled with sorrow?" "Don't," she said, standing up. "Don't do this, Sheen. It's over. I'm a queen now, a wife. I belong to him." Sheen stepped back. His voice was gentle but firm. "I only wanted to know if he's treating you well." She looked away. He is. Ilara. No, she snapped. You don't understand. He's a king. He gave me the world. I'm not some village girl anymore. I'm happy. She turned away and walked swiftly back to the palace. Her steps were strong, but her heart, it was trembling. As night fell again, Ilara sat in front of her mirror. Her maids had left. Her golden crown sat quietly on the table. She stared at her reflection. She was beautiful, regal, but there was fear in her green eyes. Maybe last night had just been a tradition, a ceremony. Maybe tonight would be different. He would be kind, gentle, romantic. She was his wife now. He had kissed her forehead, hadn't he? Her heart beat faster as she heard the chamber doors open. Lucien entered. The candlelight flickered across his skin. He wore no shirt, just a black silk wrap around his waist. His body was tall, strong, sculpted like a god. He looked like a dream, dangerous and desirable. He was breathtaking, and yet terrifying. In his hand, again, was the golden bowl. Her stomach sank. Not again. Ilara, his voice was low, rich. Come. She stood, her legs weak. He walked to her. Take off your gown. She hesitated. Lucien, must we do this again? I don't like it. He didn't answer. His hand reached for the strings on her back. One pull, and the gown slid off her shoulders. It fell in silence. She stood bare before him. I am your king, he said, and this is our sacred right. The soil of Valemount must bless your skin before I do. Her eyes filled with tears. Please, she whispered, but he had already dipped his hand into the golden bowl. The cool, dark earth spread across her skin again, her arms, her belly, her thighs. She closed her eyes and let the tears fall, silent, unseen. Later that night, when Lucien had fallen into a deep sleep beside her, Ilara rose. Her body was covered in dry clay. It cracked with every movement. It burned, it scratched. She walked to the bath. There was no water ready. She knelt beside the mirror and began scraping the hardened mud off her arms. The more she rubbed, the more her skin tore. Small wounds formed. Blood bloomed. She let out a soft cry. Her fingers trembled. Her back ached. She looked at herself in the mirror. Was this what a queen looked like? A broken girl in pain? Tears streamed down her cheeks. She wiped them away, but they kept coming. She touched her crown. It felt heavier than ever. She looked back at Lucien. He lay peacefully in bed, his face soft in sleep, beautiful, almost innocent. How could someone so cruel look so tender? Why did he kiss her like a lover and treat her like a ritual? Was this love, or a curse wrapped in gold? Ilara pressed her forehead against the cold stone wall. I don't understand, she whispered. I thought I'd be a queen. I thought I'd be loved. But all she felt was pain, and the silent echo of a love story rewritten into something dark, something she couldn't escape. Not now, not ever. Days passed, and with each passing night, the pain in Ilara's heart grew deeper. Every evening, like clockwork, King Lucien would enter her room bare-chested, mysterious, beautiful as Sinand carry that same golden bowl filled with the dark clay. He never explained, he never hesitated. He would gently ask her to undress, and she never refused. She couldn't. Her voice died in her throat every time she tried to say no. Then the cold earth would touch her skin again, Her shoulders, her back, her thighs, her body, once kissed with silk and jewels, now felt like a canvas for something she did not understand. And yet, every morning when she awoke, Lucian would treat her like a queen. He'd bring her fresh flowers, whisper sweet things in her ear. Once, he even kissed the back of her hand and said softly, "You were made to rule beside me, Elara. You make the palace come alive." His words were tender, his gaze was warm. He took her on walks in the garden. He placed a diamond pendant around her neck and said, "It reminded me of your eyes." And still, at night, the ritual continued. Elara began to smile during the day. She laughed softly with the palace maids. She ruled with kindness. People loved their new queen. Many came to her with their problems and left with their hearts lightened. But deep inside, Elara was drowning. Why is he doing this to me? She could feel the bruises on her body, the faint scratches where the clay dried too tightly. She had started avoiding mirrors. But the most dangerous thing was her confusion. He is kind, gentle, even romantic. Then why does his touch feel like a curse every night? One afternoon, while she was seated in her chamber garden, reading petitions from the villagers, she heard a voice behind her. Still wearing that forced smile, "Cousin." Elara looked up sharply. Sheen, her cousin, the boy who once dreamed of marrying her, the one she had turned away for a crown. He stood there with a strange expression, a mix of curiosity and something darker. She shifted uncomfortably. "Why are you here again, Sheen?" "I came to offer incense for your well-being," he said smoothly. "After all, you are the queen now." He sat down on the edge of the stone bench, but his eyes were not on her face. They were scanning her arms, her collarbone. "You look tired." "I'm just busy," she replied quickly, trying to cover her shoulder with her shawl. But he reached forward suddenly and caught her wrist. "Elara, wait, what is this?" he whispered, his fingers tracing a faint red mark near her elbow. She froze. Sheen's eyes widened. He pulled her sleeve back further and saw more scars. Marks, thin lines left behind by the dried clay. Her hands trembled. "Tell me," he said, voice suddenly low. "What is he doing to you?" And Elara broke. Tears spilled from her eyes as she turned away, covering her face. "He puts this mud on me every night," she choked. "I don't know why. I hate it, but he never explains. He just says it's a ritual. I feel dirty." Sheen's face darkened. He leaned closer, whispering in her ear, "You fool, don't you see? He's using you for some ancient sacrifice. You're just a part of his dark ritual." She looked at him, horrified. "No. Think about it, Elara. Why else would a man, a king, need to cover your body in sacred clay night after night? It's not love, it's preparation for something evil." Elara gasped. Her heart stopped. Her cousin leaned in, his voice now cold. "You threw away my love, and now you've been gifted to the devil in a crown." She stared at him, broken. "Leave." He smirked, then bowed mockingly. "As you wish, Your Majesty." That night, Elara stood by the window. Her heart was a battlefield of fear and questions. Was Sheen right? Was Lucian preparing her for some dark sacrifice? When the doors opened and Lucian entered, she turned. He was the same bare-chested, godlike, holding the golden bowl. "Elara," he said softly, "come." But tonight, her soul was on fire. She stepped back. "No." Lucian paused. "What?" I don't want the clay tonight. He frowned, just slightly. It's tradition? No, not tonight, she said, her voice trembling but firm. If you love me without it. Lucian's eyes changed. The softness disappeared. He walked toward her slowly. Elara, do not deny the ritual. I will, she whispered. If you want me, then take me as I am. Lucian stared at her for a long, tense moment. Then, in a sudden motion, he grabbed her wrists. She gasped. His grip was strong but not violent. He bound her hands with silk cords from the curtain ties. Lucian, what are you doing? He said nothing. He lowered her gown with practiced ease. Her bare skin shivered under the cold air. She shut her eyes tightly as she felt the cliquel and wet touch her again. Her tears ran freely now. She said nothing. Neither did he. When it was over and he lay asleep beside her once more, Elara sat up. Her hands still shook. Her body still ached. But her heart was screaming. Enough. I will find out what this ritual is. I will uncover the truth. Does he love me? Or am I just a body meant for a crown of blood? The morning sun spilled golden light into Elara's chamber, but she had been awake long before the rays touched her face. Her eyes were fixed on the door waiting, watching. Today she had a plan. No more silent tears. No more guessing games. Today she would uncover the truth. As expected, King Lucian arrived in his usual charming glory. A soft smile on his lips, his hand gently brushing her cheek. You're glowing today, he whispered. Elara returned, a smiler, real one this time, but not from joy. From control. She was calm, careful, watching. Because you're here, she said sweetly. Lucian leaned down, kissing her hand like a fairy tale prince. Then he spoke of breakfast in the garden, of the doves that had returned, of his plans for expanding the royal orphanage. To any outsider, he was the perfect husband, but Elara's eyes never left his fingers. He laughed, he joked, he touched her lovingly, but as the afternoon gave way to dusk, he started to change. Lucian began cracking his fingers, one by one, a habit he always did when anxious. He paced, he bit his lip. His beautiful face darkened with thought, and then, just before the last bell of the evening, he did something strange. He looked around the room, whispered something to a guard. The servants bowed and left. Elara, hidden behind a curtain, held her breath. Lucian walked quickly, almost nervously, toward the back of the palace. Elara followed, her heart pounding in her chest, her bare feet silent on the marble floor. They reached the old servants' garden, now abandoned and overgrown. There the king knelt, not like a royal, not like a ruler, like a man hiding something. He dug into the earth with his bare hands. Elara watched in stunned silence as he scooped the soft dirt into a golden bowl. Then, reaching into his robe, he pulled out a small cloth pouch. Inside it a greyish-white powder. He sprinkled it into the soil. Then added water, mixed, slowly, carefully. Then he took out a small dagger. Elara gasped silently. He didn't hesitate. Just a quick slash across his palm. Blood. Dark red droplets fell into the bowl. Lucian winced, but didn't stop. Elara's mind flashed back every night. His fingers had been bandaged. She thought it was a small wound, an accident. But no, he was doing this every single night. Her knees nearly gave way. Back in her chamber, Elara sat silently. Her hands trembled. What kind of ritual is this? Why his blood? Why my body? Is this love? Or something darker? The door creaked open. Lucien entered, slower than usual, his shoulders heavy, his face serious, quiet, almost sorrowful. He looked at her. She didn't say a word. Then, for the first time ever, Ilara untied her own gown. Lucien flinched. "You don't have to." "I want to," she whispered. He walked to her, slowly, carefully. In his hand, again, was the golden bowl. He dipped his fingers into the mixture, but tonight there was sadness in his eyes. As he spread the clay across her skin softly, almost reverently, he whispered, "Give me a child, Ilara, please. I love you more than anything." His voice cracked. "Please." She looked up at him, but before she could speak, "Clank," a noise. Lucien spun around. Out of the shadowed corner of the room, a man emerged, sword in hand. Sheen, Ilara's cousin, the secret she had hidden, the plan she had made. Sheen's blade moved swiftly straight to Ilara's throat. Lucien froze. "Don't move," Sheen growled. Ilara gasped. "Sheen, no." But Sheen ignored her. His eyes burned with rage. "You monster," he snarled at Lucien. "You scar her every night. You break her spirit. You ruin her skin. You who calls yourself a king." Lucien stepped forward, but Sheen pressed the blade closer. "She's becoming uglier by the day because of you," he spat. "You're doing this so you'll have a reason to leave her, so you can marry another woman, a younger one." "I would never," Lucien's voice thundered. "Don't you dare say that. I love her. If you hurt her, she's better dead than in your hands," Sheen hissed. He raised the blade higher. Lucien's hand flew to his own sword. In one sharp motion, he drew it out. The room pulsed with tension. "Put the sword down," Lucien shouted. "Step away from my wife." The air was thick. Ilara stood frozen, eyes wide with fear. But Sheen didn't lower his blade. Not until he picked up the golden bowl filled with blood-mixed clay and held it out. "Then explain this," he challenged. "Tell her the truth. What is this? Why do you put it on her? What dark magic is this, king?" Lucien was silent. The room held its breath. Then his shoulders dropped. His sword lowered, and he spoke. "I was desperate," he said quietly. "I've been married twice before, and both times I could not father a child." He looked at Ilara. "I wanted a son, an heir for the kingdom. That's why I chose you." Ilara's lips parted in shock. "But I fell in love with you," he added. "Not for your womb, but for your soul, your heart." He looked at the bowl. "An old healer once told me about this ritual, that the soil, mixed with my blood and prayer, placed on a queen's body before union, can bless her womb with life." His voice broke. "I didn't know it would hurt you. I didn't want to make you cry. I just wanted a child." He looked down. "If this has caused you pain, then I'll stop." Lucien walked to his throne, slowly sitting down, a king weighed down by guilt. His eyes glistened. "I don't want an heir at the cost of your tears." The room was silent. Sheen stared at him, speechless. Then he slowly removed the blade from Ilaros's neck. He turned to her. "You're lucky," he whispered. "He loves you more than I ever did." And he walked away. Ilara remained still. Then, slowly, she walked to Lucien. He didn't look up until she knelt beside him and took his hand. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly. I was afraid, he said. Afraid you'd think I was cruel or weak. She smiled through tears. I don't think you're cruel, she whispered. I think you're broken, but so am I. He looked at her. Will you forgive me? She leaned in and kissed his lips. Long, soft, forgiving. I already have. And that night, there was no clay, only love. Elara stood in the garden beneath the cherry blossoms, her hand resting gently over her belly. Lucien walked toward her. She smiled. I have something to tell you. He raised an eyebrow. Yes, my queen. I'm pregnant. The world stopped. Lucien's eyes widened. And then he dropped to his knees, pressed his ear against her stomach, and wept. Tears of joy, of relief, of love. They embraced. And in that moment, King Lucien Blackamoor and Queen Elara Quinn had everything they ever wanted. Not just a kingdom, but a home, and soon a family.